Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we have a fantastic and honestly super relatable topic lined up for you. This is part of our special Parashat Shavua and relationship series with Mazal Klein. We're going to be unpacking some of the most common, but honestly deeply misunderstood, dynamics of modern dating communication. We'll be looking directly at real-life scenarios from Mazal's coaching practice to see what actually builds a connection and, well, what kind of tears it down. If you've ever, stressed out over a text message or maybe panicked during a quiet moment on a date, this explainer is exactly what you need.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the silent date myth. So picture this for a second. It's a second date and you're sitting on a quiet park bench. The conversation naturally kind of lulls into silence, right? Nobody's rushing to fill the air with words. Well, for one of Mazal's clients, her immediate reaction on the ride home was just sheer panic. She literally told Mazal, I was sure he wasn't interested. She fell right into that classic trap we've all been in, assuming that just because there were silences, there must be absolutely zero connection. She basically equated quietness with failure, like it was this giant red flag that the spark just wasn't there. But when Maisel challenged her to look a little closer at that specific moment, the client had this massive paradigm shift. When she actually stopped and thought about the reality of that silence, she admitted something really surprising. It didn't actually feel awkward. On the contrary, she felt completely relaxed and secure next to him. And you guys, that right there is the very definition of a comfortable silence. The penny really dropped for her here. Not every quiet moment is a bad sign. Sometimes it's actually the exact opposite. It can be a profound sign of security. Which brings us to a really foundational truth. Deep connection isn't just about words. It's simply not measured exclusively by what we say to each other. A truly strong bond is also measured by the ability to just be together, right, with your hearts at peace, without that exhausting need to constantly impress the other person or rush to fill every single second with chatter. Actually, scratch that. It's more like sometimes presence speaks so much louder than dialogue ever could.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the over-texting trap. Now, let's swing over to the total opposite extreme. What happens when there are just way too many words? Well, another client found her phone completely blowing up right after her third date. This guy was messaging her 3 times a day, every single day. We're talking good morning, how are you, how was your day, good night. It was this relentless barrage of checking in. And to make matters worse, if she didn't reply right away, he actually expected a full explanation. So what was the result? The client told Masal something incredibly powerful. She said, I didn't feel known, I felt expected. Wow, that is such a critical point to understand. All this constant communication, it just created immense pressure. It definitely didn't build true, authentic closeness, and it didn't reveal anything meaningful about who they really were. It just dumped this heavy burden of expectation right on her shoulders. And, this brilliantly illustrates a really common pitfall in modern dating. Not every how are you actually builds closeness. Not every update about what you ate for lunch bridges the gap between two people. When texts are sent just to, check a box and avoid silence, they just become hollow and empty words. Sure, they happen so we can feel like we're communicating, but they aren't actually drawing two people any closer. Okay, let's look at Section 3, quality versus quantity. Let's just step back and look at these two contrasting experiences side by side for a second. On the one hand, you've got comfortable silence. This actually allows the connection to breathe. It fosters a feeling of security and, unforced presence. Then, on the other hand, you've got empty texts. Despite being full of words, these create pressure. They feel like an obligation, and paradoxically, they actually push people away. Genuine communication is entirely about the quality of the interaction, absolutely not the sheer volume of words. Which leads us straight into Section 4, the secret to connection. So how do we actually navigate this out in the real world? How do we build that elusive, high-quality connection without falling into the trap of over-texting or, on the flip side, totally fearing the silence? Well, it starts by answering this one critical question. How should you interpret silence on a date? The next time the conversation hits a pause, we really need to move away from our default setting, which is almost always assuming it's a bad sign or a total lack of chemistry. The crucial thing here is to use Mazal's internal checklist. Step 1, notice how you feel in that quiet space. Just check in with your gut. Step 2, ask yourself, was it a pleasant silence? Like one where you could just relax and be? Or Step 3, was it a silence full of embarrassment, distance, and discomfort? You really need to lean into these questions because that quiet space, that is often exactly where the true strength of the relationship is actually being tested. And that brings us right to Mazal's core secret for building a proper connection. The key isn't simply to talk more. That's a total myth. The real secret is knowing when to talk, how much to talk, and what to talk about. It's all about being mindful and adjusting the volume, frequency, and depth of your conversation so it matches the actual stage the relationship is in. You really have to calibrate it.
Which brings us to this incredibly vital takeaway, especially for early dating. Listen closely to this one. In the beginning, less is sometimes more. Giving a new relationship the space to breathe, allowing curiosity to naturally develop, that is often far more effective, and honestly, way more attractive, than forcing constant artificial communication. You just have to let the connection grow at its own organic pace.
Finally, Section 5, Connect with Mazal Klein. Now, if you are watching this and thinking, oh wow, I totally do that, or if you're struggling with texting anxiety between dates and really want to build true closeness without creating all that pressure or distance, there is a very clear path forward. You are invited to contact Mazal Klein, a coach for marriage and happy relationships who accompanies couples for closer communication. You can reach her directly at her cell phone number, 052-328-6037. She can teach you exactly how to get this right.
I want to leave you with this final, kind of challenging thought to fundamentally change how you approach your next date. Ask yourself, in your next relationship, will you let the connection breathe, or are you going to suffocate it with words? Embrace those quiet moments, guys. Value quality over quantity. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will definitely catch you next time.